Hello, my fellow charter members, my fellow charter friends. Red Pill Trading here. A few months ago, as some of you might know, I shared on YouTube one of the models that I use in my trading. I called it the Inception model, right? And I was surprised that to me it seemed like a pretty straightforward model of overlapping imbalances, but I was surprised at how much feedback I received from charter members. And a lot of you asked me to do an advanced video, so here it is, just for you guys, not for YouTube. And I think I can share my perspective in trading, at least as someone who has shared publicly results on his live trading account across a significant amount of time, right? From my perspective, if some other charter also shared his trading model and who has shown his live results, it'll give much more credibility to his model, and I would love to learn it as well. I like learning, constantly learning new things, or going back testing, forward testing, just tweaking my models, blending in a lot of information that I get from different threads. And speaking of these threads, I wanted to, before we get into the advanced stuff, I wanted to show a huge appreciation and respect to the following threads and people who created them. We'll start with the most important thing that made a huge breakthrough in my trading is a 90-minute macro thread. Huge thank you for the guy who created this thread, for the people who contributed, explaining how 90-minute macros work, how there are also mini kill zones in which there's high probability of a setup forming there, so it narrows down a lot your entries, especially if you can trade on the lower time frames. So huge thank you. This is important. I use it, well, pretty much as a scalper. I use it every day, especially on indices. So huge thank you for this. And huge thank you for this guy, FX21F3240, who actually coded the indicator. I think it's the best looking indicator because it's so easy to see the candles wrapped around each mini kill zone, and dividers for each mini 90-minute cycle. So it's been absolutely great. I love it. So thank you for that. And the guy who started this thread, Making Things Right, thank you for showing how you use the Williams percent R. I did also a lot of back testing, forward testing, and I started using it also for confirmations. And actually it really helps to filter out some bad trades. And I'll show how I use Williams percent R specifically also on the 12 period. And I tried to do the same with RSI, and RSI is complete shit, at least in my opinion. So thank you so much for bringing these topics up. I'm like a sponge, I absorb a lot of information and I filter out the really good stuff. And I think these threads have a lot of useful info. So again, thank you for that. They have been a tremendous help in my personal trading. And for some of you might not really know what Inception model is, and in this video I'm going just to go directly into more advanced stuff. So if you haven't seen any of my YouTube videos, again, you don't have to subscribe, nothing, if you don't want to, but it would be nice if you can see these two videos. The first one where I introduced the model pretty much right after ICT mentioned me for the first time on YouTube, right? I came out, I showed this model. The audio is not very good there because I was recording on my laptop, but if you listen to headphones, it should be fine. And the last one, the comprehensive study, which I blend a lot of things together. It would be nice if you can see and you'll get a better picture of you'll understand more what I'm going to explain in this video here. All right. So again, just if you have time, it'll be great if you can watch it. Again, don't have to subscribe, like it, whatever. I don't really care, but it would be beneficial if you do. Just because I explain a lot of things in there. Okay, but the overall idea of the model is really rather simple. I'm looking for basically some kind of a usually radon buy side or sell side Not a must, but obviously if you do have a raid, the chances of a trade panning out in your favor, they increase dramatically. And the idea of overlapping imbalances, at least two. If you get three or more, 3-4 imbalances, that's usually, that's a very, very strong zone that can potentially give a very strong and quick reaction off of it. And the idea of fractal premium and discounts, right? That's really the core, the pillars of this model. And I really like to keep things simple. I do not, as a scalper, I trade on the 1 minute chart, 30 seconds chart, 15 seconds sometimes, right? I don't really care about COT data, interest rate differentials, none of that stuff. I don't need it because I can find so many setups on these lower time frames that repeat over and over again, and I can take 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 trades a day, maybe, if the market is good. And that's how I was able to basically grow my account, the one I shared publicly on YouTube. That's how I can get pretty good gains quickly. So if I was a swing trader, I would take much less trades and I would not get those gains as fast. So it's really, like ICT mentions, it's all about velocity, like how many times you can get in a trade, find a good setup and be done with it. And most of my trades are within the 2.5 R, sometimes more, but predominantly I found a lot of success just targeting those 2.5 R and just doing it several times a week. And that's how it's been working for me. Okay, that's the idea. And yeah, I don't use anything like standard deviations of Asian ranges. I don't use CBDR flout, none of that stuff. All I'm using is really just, what I'm going to show you here. And let's go right into the fun stuff, the advanced concepts that I think can help filter out also good trades versus the bad trades. And we'll start with the euro dollar actually. So the first thing I'm looking at is at least one FVG has to be created during mini kill zone. If both of them are created during mini KZ, even better, of course, right? But at least one. So that's one thing that can differentiate a good trade. Second thing is the second fractal that creates the second FVG has to create a stop run against the first fractal against the first fractal, or how to put it, or run above, below, run through, let's say this, or run through several short-term highs or lows. And this might be that might sound a little bit confusing. Once we get into examples, I'll explain. It's pretty easy. Actually, let me draw this thing out. So I think the first point is relatively simple to understand, but the second one is basically, this is what I'm looking for. So let's say price created a high here and it created an imbalance, right? Now the second high probability trade is if the second fractal breaks this high, and then it can either break this low and then price reverses, and let's say there's an imbalance and reacts off of it to the downside, or it doesn't have to break this low, it can just come back also and then drop too. So that's kind of that's the logic. And if you really look at it, it looks like your head and shoulders pattern. So in a way, a lot of times when I look at it, after the trade is complete, I'm trading kind of the head and shoulders, but in the right context and usually in line with the order flow. That's when things work, and that's when again, when you have a second when the second fractal, this is your first fractal, basically high to low. This is your second fractal, right? High to low. If the second fractal breaks this first fractal, that's usually a high probability trade. Doesn't always have to, but this increases of chances of it being right. Or, so this is the first example, right? Or we have, let's say, high when lower, and then we have several, 2 or 3 short-term highs, and then price goes above. It doesn't have to go above this high, but it goes above maybe this high here, right? Also, there's an imbalance here, so it comes back down. There's some kind of imbalance here. Price comes back up and goes lower below some sell-side liquidity pool, right? That's the idea. You buy in a premium if you sell in a premium if you want to go short, and you offset your shorts below some kind of either relative equal lows or a trend line phantom. Again, it's all about just opposing pools of liquidity. That's how I see it, at least. Okay, so let me remove this. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward. Let's just go into the examples and we'll see how certain things blend in together. Again, it's really about understanding the core foundations of what Michael has been teaching us all these years, and going through the threads that actually are not a waste of time, and just deciphering what is it that's actually working and what's not. Jesus, so many of them. Bear with me, guys. I don't want this video to make it too long. Okay, I hope we can, but let's see. Okay, let me remove this. So these are the two things that make, in the Inception model, strong probability trades. Let's go into examples, okay? Let's look at euro dollar. Again, I mostly trade indices and sometimes the euro dollar or pound dollar, but mostly indices. That's my really bread and butter, right? Let's go into euro first. Oh, also the mini kill zone indicator, right? It's in the 90-minute macro thread. Somewhere it was posted somewhere, I think, between April and May of this year. I don't want to show the link because just in case, I know somehow someone decides to leak this video to the public, I just want, I'm not going to show it, but it's there. So if you have not used this indicator, feel free to, find it, because it's a large thread now. So somewhere it should narrow it down, somewhere between April and May, that guy who coded it posted it, and it's been absolutely great. So anyways, so this is the case. Let's look at the first example when like both imbalances are created inside the mini kill zone, right? So this is your mini London close of one cycle. We can see clearly there's an imbalance and it's in a premium, right? And this is first fractal. I consider this swing high because this is where when the move started, not this one. Obviously it's in a premium, right? This imbalance here. And then the second imbalance was created in a new, this is your previous 90-minute cycle, right? The delimiter. This is your new cycle. This is your London session, mini London KZ. And you can see this imbalance was created also in a premium. So I don't consider this imbalance until this happens. This is not a significant, displacement for me. This is really like a tiny, I don't consider those. I need something more meaningful. I look for deeper retracements. So I'm only considering this imbalance after this low happened and price started retracing higher. So this is the fractal, right? Also, obviously you can see it's in a premium. So we have both imbalance. So this case, the second fractal did not go above the first fractal, and that's okay, but both imbalances were created in mini kill zones. Very powerful. And this is what I was saying. So the first, the price, when it comes back, if it decides to come back, it can happen either also inside the new mini kill zone, or it can happen outside. Probably, yeah, it's better if the setup happens also, if price comes back during another kill zone, but doesn't always have to. But regardless, this was, first touch, second touch here. And also, let's look at the this imbalance, you can see that when this imbalance was created, you can kind of notice here below the Williams percent R. Oh, let me show you first the settings, right? So Williams percent R, if you go to indicators, I'm using this one, the very first one, Williams percent range. Okay, so I'm using this inputs, length 12, source to close, fill the gaps, time frame chart, style, just however you want it. I have all of this off. Just all I care about is this line here. Again, I did a lot of back testing, forward testing with RSI. It did not really work that well, but Williams is helping a lot. So this is the idea. So you see that this imbalance was kind of created here, but when price came back and here, right, you see that this was above this level here. Or the same thing happens with when price hits this imbalance. Also here, this spike happened above this, much higher than this level. Where is it? Well, not much higher, but still higher than this level when this imbalance was created, right? So to me, this is a good filter if you apply Williams percent R together with the algorithmic PD arrays, right? Together with the mini kill zones and with the Inception model. It's like so many things blend in. And in this case, there weren't a lot of touches. I really consider this as one touch. So one touch, second touch, and price started going lower. The more price comes back inside of the imbalances, that's like your retail logic, the more if price touches, let's say, a trend line 3, 4, 5 times, the less strong it becomes, and eventually can break to the opposite direction. But the less touches, the better. But let's say you did enter here. So this is up to you. If you want to play the hero, you can place your stop above this high, but this is, let's be realistic. I mean, you can trade with a 5 pip stop loss, nothing wrong with that, right? But if you want to be safe, if you are interested in learning this model, there's nothing wrong with placing your stop just above this high that created the run. So we're just only talking still about 8 pips. And where's your sell side liquidity? Immediately this stands out, right? So below these lows, within 8 pip stop, again, let's just try to be more realistic without too tight stops. Well, this is at least, this is a 2-hour trade, just a few pips below these lows, so not bad. Only thing is that it took forever to deliver. It's I like indices because usually it doesn't take that long, but also this trade happened like after noon, so I can consider trading forex up until 3 p.m. Eastern time, especially if I'm dealing with lower, like seconds charts. There's usually something you can still capitalize on, but after 3 p.m. Eastern, it doesn't make sense to even look. But anyway, the trade was delivered nicely, right? This was more than a 3-hour trade, and look at how price reacted also during the last pretty much cycle. During London mini kill zone, it started going back inside the range, right? So this was a nice trade. I'll get out of like 2.5 hours. This is plenty for me, but still this took like 2 hours to complete. Most of my trades are under half an hour long, so to me this is way too long. But again, it was Thursday, and we are in August, and it's forex afternoon, so it's kind of slower usually. But this was a good setup, so hopefully you get the ideas. This is how you can filter that at least one imbalance has to be inside the mini kill zone, but in this case we have 2, and this was a good trade. And if we look at the same time at pound dollar, actually this is what a blending of the first rule and the second rule. So we have this imbalance here that was created in the mini kill zone, London mini kill zone, and then we have basically the second fractal here, right? It took out the first fractal, so this is number 2 and kind of number 1 blending in together. So this imbalance got created during the kind of the technically the dead zone, but still, as long as we have one imbalance in the kill zone and the raid, this was a good setup. It wasn't the best. So the issue with this setup is that price came in back Also during the mini kill zone, look at this nice reaction right inside the overlapping area. Once started trading lower, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So see, this is what I don't like. If let's say if I was in the trade here, this is where you can place your stop. This would be a short stop above this high because this high went above this high. So hopefully you see the difference between the euro trade where the second fractal did not go above the first one. So you kind of, you protect your stop by placing it above the swing high that, broke a previous swing high. And while this trade did in fact deliver to the downside, your sell side can be an imbalance here. This was a good trade 3R just in this imbalance, or even lower. This was a really nice trade, but again, it took a very long time. But I personally, if I was in this trade, I would close out when I see like the third touch here. I would just close out maybe at small loss, or or basically break even, small profit, whatever it is. Pretty much break even. I'll close out because I don't like this. It might as well have just so many times. If it takes so long for price to just consolidate and it hits back the imbalance so many times, a lot of times you can get, it can result in a losing trade. In this case, it played out, but I personally would, once I see this, or definitely here, I'll just get out because I don't like it. This would be just a trade that, based on my rules and expectations, even if it played out, it did not, it wasn't perfect. So hopefully you get the idea. But this was a good idea in general about, again, like having one imbalance in a KZ and the second fractal being above. And again, both imbalances are clearly, you can see, in a premium, right? So I'm talking about this fractal here, premium, obviously. Again, I would not consider this imbalance itself because this is just a tiny move, it's not meaningful. This is much more meaningful, right? And like price kind of came back to this candle right here. And then obviously the second fractal here to here, you can consider this. So this was premium as well. So hopefully this makes sense. And again, also look at this, if we look at this imbalance, also at the time it was created, price was, the Williams RSI was here, but when the price came back to rebalance this, it was slightly higher than here. So this is also another tell that this in fact can play out in your favor. That's the idea. Again, I've been using a lot this Williams RSI now recently, and it's been actually doing a really good job. I use it for other types of setups too, outside the Inception model. I can use it together with just order blocks in a continuation move where there's little retracements. It's been phenomenal. Okay, so let's look at indices. So let me remove this. Hopefully this makes sense. I'm trying to do my best here to explain. Okay, so this is the case. Let's see. Look. So let's say you had this imbalance here, considering this fractal high to low, obviously premium, inside the kill zone. And then you have your second imbalance outside of the kill zone. This is actually London, pretty much close to New York lunch. So out of all rules, I don't follow every rule ICT. Actually, I don't follow most of the rules that ICT gives us. But one rule I definitely follow is not trading during New York lunch from 12 to 1. I just, I don't touch it. But regardless, let's say you have this imbalance after this fractal formed. Again, we disregard this. This is not a huge, this is not a big move to me. This is much more meaningful. So I would look at this fractal here. So we have two imbalances. And let's say if you do decide, to go in just based on the fact that, two imbalances. And if you look at this kind of fractal, it did go above the first one. So second one was above the first one. You might want to enter, and your stop loss would just be slightly above this high. So you just have some drawdown, break even, slight profit, drawdown, break even. So if it takes you, what, half an hour, even more, like 40 minutes, and price barely did anything, I would personally just close. If I was in this trade, I would close it either like small loss, break even, But let's say you didn't close it, so this was just a loss. You took a loss here when, you know, the 130 macro starts kicking in. You took a loss. That's fine. Again, nothing is 100%. But then again, look what happened right after. So let's say, let's not sugarcoat it. You were in this trade. However, why would you trade it again if this happened during lunch, right? This so you, if you follow the no trades in between 12 to 1, you'll be safe. But then this happened, right? A new high, and we have a imbalance here. Obviously premium also from this high to this low, so above the 50% slightly, so that works. And then price literally just touches it slightly and goes lower, right? And you have sell side. This is what I look for, like a trend line kind of stuff. This is your trend line phantom, relative equal lows if you want to look at these two lows also. So we had first imbalance fractal, second imbalance fractal that broke above all these highs here. So this is actually the very good example, because not only it went above this high here, but it also went above all these highs, right? So cleaning up all this liquidity. And price literally just touched here. And again, let's look at the Williams RSI. Look, the imbalance when it was created, it was somewhere around here, and then the Williams RSI when it came inside in the imbalance is much higher. So this is your tell sign that, okay, this is like your additional confirmation. And it happened during the setup itself happened during a new mini this is a mini New York kill zone, right? So we have two imbalances inside kill zones. First rule applied, second rule also applied, second fractal above the first one and above all this liquidity, and the entrance was the entry point was also created during the mini kill zone. So this is golden. And let's say, obviously this is, you know, you might sometimes think that it might want to fill a little bit higher. So if you wait, I don't think, I mean, I doubt personally I would enter here, but as long as I see this rejection, a lot of times in the trades that I share on my, you know, Telegram, or even you know, live trades on YouTube, I would actually sometimes wait for some kind of a rejection. And maybe let's say you just entered here, so you stop. It would make sense for, let's say you stop to be here, right? So 26 point stop or so. And well, this is at least at this point you can move your stop to break even if you're not satisfied with 1.7. You know, a 2-hour trade just below this low is shortly after, and this was a beautiful trade. I mean, look at this. This is huge. I mean, sometimes I wish I would help. You know, a lot of my trades can go for like 4 or 5 hour. Sometimes I wish if I, you know, hold at least even some kind of partials, but honestly, I figure what's working best for me, and it's mostly focusing on those 2.5 hour trades. Again, they happen so many times throughout the day. Or at the very least, if I am targeting at a 3.5 hour trade, I would take partials along the way anyway. Like a 2 hour, usually I would take partials, and I would place my stop at break even when price hits 1.5 hour, at least 1.5 usually.